All of you, and thank you very, very much for joining us. This is the Imani Center for Policy and Education and Joy News, Joy FM program. It is the minority political parties and independent candidates presidential debate, where 6 persons seeking to lead this country come 7th January 2021 would be answering questions that you have put together, which our moderators would be asking them. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And we're coming to you live from the auditorium of the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. My name is Winston Amwa, and I'll be, like John the Baptist, preparing the way for your moderators to take over. Shall we now welcome, with a round of applause, Professor Charles Barnow, who is Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, to give us a welcome note.
Good evening, and welcome to the campus of the University of Professional Studies, Accra. We are delighted to welcome you here this evening for what promises to be a lively discussion and debate. The beauty of debates have always been the ability of good ideas to thrive and flourish, regardless the deliverer of those ideas. And for all participants to present their opposing viewpoints respectfully, allowing our young democracy to thrive. As independent candidates and minority parties, this is one of the rarest opportunities to connect with the large of Ghanaian voters with a positive message that might make a difference in this ultra-modern auditorium of UPSA, and we are proud to host you here. As a young democracy, opportunities like this presidential debate for independent candidates can only bode well for Ghana's democratic future. Perhaps independent candidates and minority parties are not bound by the governing of any political party agenda. As independent candidates, your focus will be to design platforms to appeal to the concerns of the public and to encourage voters to support your bid. However, over time, we have observed that minority parties and independent candidates strategize on the mantra that they are needed in the middle to pull views together, compromise, and resolve disagreement between maybe MPP and NDC, and to get an outcome that is best at the interests of the country. I want to indicate that this strategy is outmoded, and it requires fine-tuning for a new strategy for winning ways. In other words, what I'm indicating here is that it is time for independent candidates and minority parties to pull themselves together to hold the balance of power in the political structure of this country, so that we will put some sanity into the governance of this country in the area of finance and administration. And this takes me to recent images and utterances of our youth behaving in ways unbecoming of who we thought our Ghanaian youth were and how we expected them to behave. Though a lot of people condemned the actions, our shock stemmed from the fact that we all believe that schools are the preferred environment to transform productive and useful citizens of any nation. While identifying the sources of leakages of such behavior to our youth, it is now time for society to look at the level of responsibility from all political parties in this country. I know our aim to participate in the management of public affairs by presenting yourselves as candidates to free and democratic elections. I also believe that you have pledged to be more decorous in your language and your communication with one another as the nation watches tonight. I have no doubt that each of the candidates and the parties here will rise to the occasion and begin a trend of which we all will be proud and which our youth will emulate. To Imani, I say congratulations for organizing what is hopefully the first of many such events for independent candidates and political parties in this country. Welcome to UPSC. Arguably, this is the most resourced ultra-modern auditorium in this country and perhaps West Africa. You're always welcome. We are willing to do business with you, and we thank you for your business. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Charles Bano. We certainly would come back because tonight we have 6 independent candidates, and as I started by saying, it is the minority parties and independent candidates debate. So we'll come back again. I'm sure I see Franklin Kujo nodding when it's time for the minority political parties. Once again, thank you. And like you stated, I'm certainly sure that the candidates, 6 of them, would rise up to the occasion. Shall we now welcome Mr. Kofi Bentil, who is Vice President of Imani, to give us some brief remarks.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for honoring our invitation. Imani is glad to host this particular forum. Our name says policy and education. We make it a point to try and put out as much information as possible, learn as many things as possible, and generally improve the level of discourse in this democracy. One of the things we also try to do is actually go to places or deal with issues which are always important, but sometimes not interesting enough or too difficult, too complex for people. So we take the time to go through that, break it down, and hopefully improve the discourse in our democracy. It is in this spirit that we are holding this particular forum, and we are very grateful to Joy FM for partnering with us. We are hoping that we will find gems. We will find some nice, beautiful, special ideas that we may have missed from the ideas that these gentlemen will present here. Indeed, in our history, there have been some very good ideas that the major parties have adopted, which originally came from independent candidates. And I also believe that you don't learn much by listening only to people who share your ideas. You fine-tune your own ideas when you allow it to be challenged, when you go outside the spaces where people agree with you and listen to other views. That is how you improve the discourse and you learn more than you already know. So tonight is about throwing out ideas and learning new things. It's about going beyond the echo chamber where we only hear what we've been hearing all the time. And hopefully the independent candidates will spice up our political discourse. We are very happy to be here and we look forward to a good evening. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you very much, Kofi Bentil. And we're live on Joy 99.7 FM. We're also live on the Joy News channel and online on My Joy Online, as well as on our Facebook platforms. All right, so we're certainly waiting, and we're getting to that moment that all of you are waiting for, when the 6 candidates will get up here and answer the questions that you have given to us to be asked. But before we get to that segment, let's now invite Franklin Kujo, who is president of Imani, for his brief remarks, and then I'll hand you over to Evans Mensah and MFAPA.
Thank you very much, Winston. Good evening. I'm already nervous, by the way, as if I'm part of the debate. Well, since Imani began demanding the business plans of political parties in 2008, we knew running the country was not necessarily synonymous with running a private enterprise. However, we have since realized that after 3 major elections, that is not sufficient for it is not sufficient for a political party to cost the individual initiatives they are proposing, something most of them never bother to do anyway. And that we think they must produce a complete pro forma budget which demonstrates what the opportunity cost for each initiative will be by showing the source of budgetary receipts alongside the inventory of expenses. We think that a manifesto without such a pro forma budget cannot suffice as a proper statement of intent. However, this evening is not to adore manifestos. This evening, our compatriot independent candidates will be the first to be subjected to questions that seek to elicit, at the very least, responses that hopefully resonate with being business ready in order to offer a different version of reality we have been used to. I am positive they will impress, and so on behalf of Imani and the amazing friends at Multimedia, who, by the way, shepherded us along this rather wonderful path, giving us an opportunity to offer platforms for various voices, I welcome all of you watching from afar and listening from afar, and to all of you here in this rather wonderful auditorium, to the maiden edition of the Imani Multimedia Independent and Minority Party presidential debate. Enjoy yourselves.
We certainly would enjoy ourselves. Thank you very, very much, Franklin Kujo. And at this point, with lots of excitement, I hand you over to Evans Mensah and MFR Powell, who are moderators for this evening's program. Over to you, Evans and MFR.
Thank you very much, Winston. So one of the few... And then to podium 2, we have Mr. Samuel Ofori Ampofo. Please, let's give it up for him. And then to podium 3, we have Mr. Kofi Kranting. To podium 4, we have Mr. Carl Ebo Morgan. Then to podium 5, we have Onipayede Osumte. Then to podium 6, we have Mr. Marek Kofigan. So I'll go over again quickly. To podium 1, we have Dr. Thomas Sise. He's joining us via Zoom. To podium 2, we have Mr. Samuel Ofori Ampofo. To podium 3, we have Mr. Kofi Kranting. To podium 4, Mr. Carl Ebo Morgan. To podium 5, we have Onipayede Osumte. And to podium 6, Mr. Marek Kofigan. Welcome, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we don't have any female aspirants just yet, but I'm sure that in the next debate we will have a female aspirant. Now to the rules for tonight's events.
For tonight, each candidate will receive the same question to be answered in turns. The moderators may pose a follow-up question to allow the candidate to provide clarity on a response given. The order of each round of answering will alternate to allow for a fair balance. At the end of each round of questions, the moderator will pause to allow for rebuttals. There will be no breaks during the debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement and another minute for closing statements. The allotted time to answer a substantive question is 60 seconds, while 30 seconds is allowed for each rebuttal. A ring from a bell will indicate when a candidate has exhausted the time due and will display the time as it counts down on the big screens here in the auditorium as well. The order of arrangement of the candidate, as you have heard MFR Power announce, was determined based on the transparent balloting process in which all the candidates participated. Here is the code of conduct for tonight. Candidates are expected to show respect to their opponents, the moderators, and of course, the audience. Audience are expected to remain silent during the debate. And if I said you lost your chance, if you didn't do it at the beginning, that's the last time it will ever happen. Audience are specifically discouraged from applause or jeer. Those are the rules for tonight's debate. I will now invite our first candidate who is joining us via Zoom, if he's with us via Zoom, to start us off with his 1 minute opening remark. And I'm talking about
Dr. Thomas Sise joining us via Zoom. You have 60 seconds to give us your opening remarks. It appears Dr. Tom Sise is not ready, so we'll go with you, Mr. Samuel Ofori Ampofo. With your 60 seconds, give us your opening remarks, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samuel Ofori Ampofo. I am from Esiom in the Eastern region and Kubasi in the Ashanti region. I decided to run for the highest office of the presidency of Ghana because I believe in myself. Now, I believe that I have the revolutionary capacity to transform the hopelessness in this country and make this country a better place for generations unborn. That is why I stand before you today, and I sincerely believe I will be able to convince you of all that I have in me, so that in the end, come 2020, if I am the winner and to lead these gentlemen over here, you guys will vote for me massively so that we can take over the hopelessness of this country from NDC and MPP. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll go to Mr. Kofi Kranting. How you got to the podium today will be interrogated later on as we go on. But your opening remarks at this point, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay. So, yes, indeed, my name is Kofi Kranting, and I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an advocate. I have a background in engineering. I've worked in the financial capital of the world, Wall Street. I have come to the understanding, and I'm sure everybody here will agree with me, if you were to take all Ghana's problems and you were to lump it together, you would know one thing for a fact, that if we took an approach of a science-based, data-driven, human-centered consciousness to leadership, we will solve all our problems. And that's why I'm running for president, because I know with that track record, with my background, we're going to be able to go straight to the point. No need for meetings, no need for commissions, no need for any engagements. Straight to the point, present me with the problems, let's look at the facts, let's solve the problem, let's get Ghana moving. And that's why we're here tonight. I'm thankful that you would engage us today here tonight.
Mr. Caleb Morgan, your turn. You have 60 seconds, sir.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow compatriots, I want you to pay attention to why I decided to run for president at this time. We live in a society, a country is at crossroads. We have come to a point that
You have to press your knob, sir. Thank you.
It's okay? Good. My name is Carl Ebo Morgan. I'm from the Central Region, and I'm a political psychologist, so to speak. I've studied, I'm not a qualified doctor or something, but that's what I've done all my life. Currently, I'm a consultant in management and investment in Ghana. I've achieved so much in this field, but at this point of time, the country is at crossroads that I said earlier, and we need to change these establishment parties that have caused all our woes. They have come to the end of their wits. They have no new ideas. They just kept recycling what they presented in 1992. I have not seen any new ideas. I'm here to present an alternative, which I think you will all be happy with me, and Ghanaians will give me the nod to lead the country come 2021. Thank you so much.
Nipayede Osumte, your turn.
Hello. My name is Onipayede Osumte. I was born at Asisewa in the Eastern region of Ghana. I'm a GSS2 dropout. I know most of you may wonder my business here as a GSS2 dropout. But let me tell you one thing. Ghana here, it seems most of us, we always go to school to learn how we can be able to speak the grammar, and after we successfully learning how we can be able to speak it well, we go back to the Englishman to come to plead with him to come and help us fix our economy. I think it is time we listen to some of us that we can be able to offer an alternative to fix the economy. That is why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mari Kofi Gan, your turn.
Good evening. My name is Mari Kofi Gan. I'm a chartered accountant, a development expert, and a lecturer. Every Ghanaian watching this today has one of the biggest decisions to make. And that decision is to choose someone other than the NDC and the NPP to be able to lead this country to a position where we can have one that works for all of us, not just a few. My intention here today is to be the one that leads this country in that regard. It is a decision we are all going to have to make, not just for ourselves, but for generations yet unborn. May God help us in that decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We join Dr. Thomas Iseva Zoom at this point. Your 60 seconds starts now. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
And a real estate appraiser.
The connection to Dr. Tom Asise. You have to unmute your microphone so we can hear you via Zoom. We'll try again. It appears the connection is not working to Dr. Tom Asise. We'll rectify that.
We will move on to our first substantive question. And I will start with Mr. Samuel Ofori Ampofo at podium 2. And question. The 1992 Constitution gives enormous powers of appointment to the president. Over the years, successive governments have been plagued with what has now come to be known as family and friends government. How would you fashion out a governance system that avoids nepotism in favor of merit and inclusion? Mr. Ampofo.
Thank you very much. Yes, we all know that since 1992, we've had the problem of the presidency having all the executive powers to control every sector of the economy. The president has all the powers to appoint more than 4,000 executives. And that has never been the right thing for Ghana. And if I am given the nod, I am going to run this country with minimum governance and save as much resources and funds as much as we can for our national development, so that we will never again go under the dictates of the IMF, borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. Never again under my leadership.
Mr. Kofi Koranteng, how would you fashion out a governance system that avoids nepotism in favor of merit and inclusion? Mr. Kofi Koranteng.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say it again.
How would you fashion out, same question, how would you fashion out a governance system that avoids nepotism in favor of merit and inclusion?
Okay, so our system of bringing people in is absolutely wrong, Evans. The first thing we need to do, we need to employ a director of public prosecutions, okay? Work directly with the Attorney General's office so they could oversee all crimes, everything in terms of process with the country. We need to employ also a public service commission who does the hiring of the police commissioner, hiring of the Auditor General, and also the hiring of the Electoral Commission. And we need to have a stringent process where people have success models that we go by when people come in. so that they go by specifically that. And when you have a public services commission who is employed to do that, who's independent, they make sure that happens. And then you strip away the power from, of course, the president. The way you do that is once you get in as a president.
The time's up. Mr. Carlabo Morgan, same question to you, 1 minute. How would you fashion out a governance system that avoids nepotism in favor of merit and inclusion?
Thank you so much. I am of the opinion that the 1992 Constitution has given so much power to the president. He appoints tons of people. And naturally, when you have such a power, you would like to bring your closest family. The temptation is so high. When I'm president, I'm going to review the Constitution, expunge the indemnity clauses, and these are things that we are talking about. I will propose that we have a president and who appoints a prime minister to run a government all over the place. That is what we know. In the French-speaking countries around us, we have that. So the power of the president will be limited to some extent. So when that is done, you make sure you bring people of high caliber. Meritocracy should be the order of the day. No matter what. If your brother is qualified, he goes on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Onipayo Dosumtai, same question to you, sir.
Hello. Okay, what I'll do is, I think when you read the Constitution, in Article 78, there are two offices. The Constitution created two offices, the legislature and then the executives. But Article 78 gives away that a legislature, the executive, which the president is supposed to take more of the cabinet ministers, the ministers from legislatures. So one person is serving in two offices. I think that's the reason why we are facing this kind of nepotism. So what I'll do is I'll amend Article 78. So it separates the legislatures from the executives. I think that will help. This is my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Onipayo Dosumtai. This round ends on this question to Mr. Marik Kofi Gan. Same question. How would you dismantle the system and make it meritorious?
I can't say anything different from our manifesto, which is now public. One of the things we have said in that document is that even though the president has the power to appoint as many as the Constitution allows him to, one of the things that I have decided that we will do is to set up committees. It could be standing committees, it could be permanent committees, but committees that involve people from all walks of life, the professional sectors, the judiciary itself, and other elements of our society to put out names to the president, hopefully from Ghanaians home and abroad, to ensure that we break down that element of the president having to choose everybody that he knows. For me, this is a balance between the president choosing and the people of Ghana choosing.
Thank you very much. I would go now to Zoom and attempt to bring in once more Dr. Thomas Sise. Dr. Thomas Sise, if you had a question, how would you fashion out a governance system that avoids nepotism in favor of merit and inclusion?
So it does appear we do not have Dr. Thomas Sise at this point. So we'll start the second round with you, Mr. Kofi Kranting.
Before we do that, we have 30 seconds for rebuttals. If anybody wants to take advantage of that on this same question before we move to the second round of questions, you have the floor. Rebuttals on the first question of demolishing nepotism in favor of merit and inclusion.
Absolutely.
You kindly put on the microphone.
It's on.
Yes.
Oh, okay, here we go. So again, like I was saying, so what you do is you're going to have a success model. The success model has to be followed. You have a public service commission that holds everybody to this success model. The president cannot come around this public service commission to make decisions as to who to pick. You have a success model, you follow it. If you don't meet it, you don't get in. And then when anybody goes outside of the Public Service Commission guidelines to hire somebody, they pay the consequences.
30 seconds is up. Anybody else want to take advantage of this? 30 seconds for a rebuttal? If not, I have a question, quick follow-up. So, again to you, Mr. Marek Kofi Gan. You say you're going to set up a committee and they will be responsible for presenting a list to the president to select from. You run a campaign. Campaigns are very expensive. There are individuals who would put in money into your campaign. And as they say, there's no free lunch. What's your policy going to be for those individuals who will run your campaign, especially in a country where we don't have the rules governing political party campaign financing isn't watertight, who will come around after you've been elected and demand favors, including putting their friends and others in positions of power?
I did start by saying that this is a balanced game that we're playing, and so there has to be balance. One of the things I want to say very quickly is that there is a balance between what I have said I will do in terms of putting up a committee and people who we already have identified who are professionals who qualify themselves to be put in certain positions. And so there's so many positions to get filled. I am saying there has to be a balance between those I bring on board and those that the Ghanaians choose.
Same question, follow-up question to Mrs. Amofori Ampofo. You started this off and you said you run a minimum governance. I think what you meant, if you clarify what that means exactly, when you said you run a minimum governance, just to quote you, what exactly do you mean by that?
Thank you very much. What I mean by that is, as we all know right now, the MPP government runs a government of about 120 or 10 or 15 ministers. I am going to run a government that will appoint only 40 ministers. By appointing 40 ministers, we're going to save over 200.
Finish? Finish?
We're going to save over 250 million cedis.
Okay, thank you very much.
So a quick follow-up to you, Onipaide Osumte. So if you say you are amending Article 78, what exactly are you hoping to achieve with that?
I mean to achieve from... Okay. What I will achieve from amending Article 78, it will make the legislature autonomous. That there is not going to be a conflict in their services. So at least the legislatures are mandated to take control over the powers of the executives. Now the Article 78, for their arms down, they cannot perform well to be able to.
Well, you've been bailed out. Let's go on to the second round. We'll have a two-pronged question on this one. I'll start with you, Mr. Kofi Kranting. And it says, since 1992, Ghana has seen increasingly bloated governments and an oversized bureaucracy. What specific current ministries, departments, and agencies would you do away with, and why?
Okay, so we coming in with a very skin-tight government. We have 10 ministries, okay? 10 ministries, going to be agriculture, energy, employment and entrepreneurial development, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Health, Interior, Trade and Industry, and Ministry of Justice. 10, that's it. And the reason why we need to do that is because we're going to run a tight government. More doesn't give you effectiveness. Effectiveness is what gives you effectiveness. And because we're coming in with a science-based, data-driven, human-centered government, we know exactly what needs to be done. And Ghana does not. With 30 million people, we don't need more than 10 ministries to run Ghana.
Well, to you, Mr. Caleb Morgan, which specific current ministries, departments, and agencies would you do away with?
Which type of ministry that I would do away with them?
Exactly. Which specific current ministries, the ones we have now, you do away with, and why?
Okay. I can assure you that most of the ministries that were created in this government was actually frivolous. They were jobs for the boys. We have our real ministry that run our affairs since independence. Sometimes we align some of them to make a lean government. And this is exactly what I would do. Sanitation, which ministry is doing practically nothing. They had a budget of 200 million dissipated, and the country is full of filth. Zongo development, this all should go under the Ministry of Rural Government and so on. So for me, these are all jobs for the boys. Many others, in the First House or Jubilee House, there are so many government appointees that should be kicked out, and they are just a drain on the economy. I'll do just that.
Onipa and Osumte, which specific current ministries, departments, and agencies would you do away with, and why?
I think all the departments are important. But what I'll do is, you see that they split the department. A Ministry of Railways, Transport needs to come under one umbrella. So I think what I'll do is, I'll narrow the department to fit in. I can take like road, aviation, and then transport to make it under one department, rather than splitting it, ministry of this, ministry of that. That's what I'll do. Thank you.
Mr. Mariko Figan, your turn.
Just to continue from what the others have, I do want to add the Ministry of Railways to the Ministry of Transport. I do believe that the Ministry of Sanitation is irrelevant. I do believe that there are various youth employment and related agencies that have been put together now, which actually should be coming under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. There are other elements within the various, the Office of the Special Prosecutor does not make sense to me, because I feel we have all the judiciary related agencies to deal with everything that that department deals with. I do not believe that the Office of the Senior Minister has any role to play in this country, and many, many more related ones. But I'll leave it for that.
Mr. Samuel Ofori-Ampofo.
Thank you very much. And I wouldn't be able to stand right here to tell you that this amount, this particular ministry or that particular ministry will be absorbed into, compressed into the lean government that I'm talking about. But I will initially appoint a committee that will advise me on various ministries. Right now we have about 120 ministries or ministers, or 110 ministers. They're all ministries, and therefore all other ministries that cannot be funded by state will be absorbed into 40, absorbed and make 40 ministries. And also all other agencies whose functions overlap the other, like IOCO, BNI, and all the rest will be consolidated.
You've been bailed out. I'll give Dr. Thomas Sisi another opportunity again via Zoom to take the same question. If you can hear me, then I'm asking what specific current ministries, departments, and agencies you do away with, and why.
No, I don't have to. I don't have to state the kind of ministry. A good leader doesn't do that openly, but it's not healthy. But I'm going to run. I'm going to run a 25-minister kind of government. You see, when I get there, then we know the kind of ministries we need to. We don't need to do away with them. We need to shift them to another areas. They should be directors instead of ministers. You see, I'm going to use a method called CICI, and that is common sense, intelligence, conscientiousness, and integrity. Those are the criteria that my government is going to use to determine those who are going to work with me. You see, that is what is needed. And secondly, too, you see, it is necessary we understand that before you vie for the presidency, there must be the 4 guiding principles that you the candidate have. And that is going to help you. That is going to help you to understand what you are about to do, how to handle the affairs of your government.
Thank you, Mr. Asise. You've been bailed out. So unfortunately, you've been bailed out. Thank you. So we'll take a quick round. I told you I had a two-pronged question. I'll still start with you, Mr. Kofi Kranting. It's still on the same issue. But what 3 skills will you look out for in choosing your cabinet?
Okay, so we have an Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction, and they're going to set strict guidelines, which is going to be called the minimum acceptable requirements for every minister to have to go through that orientation and make sure they cut the sod. We're not going to be like the NDC and MPP and have all their friends, their grandmothers come in and have a job. That's not what's going to happen. There's going to be a serious business for a country who's ready to make a move into bigness and be able to compete at a national level. 3 skills, Caleb Morgan, that you would require in choosing your members of cabinet.
For me, the foremost is meritocracy. Merit, what you can do, no matter where you're coming from and what your background. Even you were the only person who supported my campaign, and you are not fit to be a minister of finance, I will not put you there whatsoever. So meritocracy, first of all, and also your ability intellectually, and how you fit the ministry that you want, or we want to put you there. And first and foremost, a combination of female and regional balance will be the key.
Thank you very much, Caleb Morgan. What 3 skills will you look out for in choosing your cabinet?
Okay, what I'll look at it first is competence. I think before I choose my cabinet, I make sure that those that I choose may be able to respect the rules and then go by in which I think rule of law will be my first objective. That at least a cabinet minister may not be on the road or may not be anywhere and then just...
Thank you very much. Marie Kofigan.
Problem-solving skills, attention to detail and results-oriented person, and of course, I want somebody who understands how the world works.
Thank you very much. Samuel Ofori-Ampofo.
Thank you very much. Meritocracy is the bottom line. And I wouldn't want to put anybody in a position where he doesn't understand anything at all about the functions of that particular ministry. I am not going to hire a lawyer to a position of Minister of Roads and Highways who doesn't understand anything about roads, who doesn't know about how to design, how to approve of whether the road was properly constructed or not. And so the bottom line is I'm not going to put square pegs in round holes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Thomas Sise, your turn now. 3 skills you look out for in choosing your cabinet.
Okay.
Do we have Dr. Thomas Sise? Okay. It doesn't look like Dr. Thomas Sise is with us. But Dr. Thomas Sise, can you hear us now? Well, we'll try and rectify that with him. But listening to all of you, it looks like sanitation ministry is something you are hoping to do away with. How then are you hoping to deal with the filth in the country? Mr. Morgan, you were heavy on that.
Thank you so much. By saying that I'm going to get away with the sanitation ministry, I have a program that I'm going to roll out, and that will be a sanitation and road and safety brigade. I'm going to bring up young men and women who will be in all the districts and regions across the country. It will be a new form of a brigade trained to do the sanitation. A group will do the sanitation, others will do the road and safety programs, including a center, a regional center, district center, for all these things to be coordinated. The fire service will be there, the nurses, the anesthesia nurse, all these groups will be there to attend to emergencies in the district. With the towing truck and so on, all ready for any emergency. They will be ready. They will be set for everything in the district and in the regions. That's what I'm going to do.
Just to indicate that this is rebuttals and follow-ups, and so 30 seconds very strictly. Mr. Kalmorgan, so all that you've said, it won't be under any ministry. You said it will be coordinated, but not by any ministry.
Can you bring the question?
All that you've described in dealing with sanitation just right now.
Yes.
You said you will do away with the sanitation ministry. So all that you've described, who will coordinate this? Would it be under any ministry?
No, not under ministry. It's an agency. Okay. It's going to be an agency under the office of the president, because I pay special attention to this thing. I'll make sure I get a report from the district, from the regions every other week to be abreast of what is happening.
Mary Kofi Gan, you also made the same point that it is needless to have a sanitation ministry. Same question, what would you have instead to deal with the filth?
I mean, the filth is a result of the absence of the infrastructure to deal with the filth. So there's two ways we're considering this. To have the whole issue of sanitation under the Ministry of Infrastructure or under the Ministry of Health, because, you know, the essence of the whole infrastructure is that if it doesn't happen, you get filth. If filth is there, you get people getting sick, they get back into the health cycle, and it's a cycle. So it's either under Health or the Ministry of Infrastructure.
30 seconds still for rebuttals if anybody wants to pick up on that. You, Mr. Kalmorgan and Mr. Mary Kofi can afford to utilize your 30 seconds, and so the other four candidates, if you want to utilize the rebuttals, you are allowed to.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. So number one, we're going to do underground systems for our sewer and sanitation. Underground systems, we're going to penalize merchants who use receptacles that are non-biodegradable, and then for sure it's going to be a standard for anyone who's selling anything, plastic, whatever you use has to be biodegradable.
Thank you very much.
Sanitation will definitely be a major part of our national life. It is very, very important because it's the cleanliness of the country that makes us sick or healthy. We spend so much money on drugs, fighting cholera and fever and all the rest, and it's all about poor sanitation in the country. We need to focus more attention on sanitation, and I will recommend that we build incinerators that will burn most of our...
So do you, for clarity, do you disagree then with Mr. Kalmorgan, Mr. Mary Kofi Gan, that we should do away with the sanitation ministry?
Not necessarily doing away with the ministry, but just like Morgan said, it has to be an agency, but that agency must be also under a particular ministry. And so health therefore, will have to control the sanitation department.
Okay, thank you very much. So the substantive next round questions now, and this is on corruption. And I will start with you, Kalmorgan. While many anti-corruption strategies have been introduced over the years, they have mostly failed to yield results as evidenced by various corruption perception indices. A dominant source of grand corruption is our procurement system. How would you design a procurement system that removes opportunities for procurement breaches?
Thank you so much. I am of the view that institutional corruption has permeated our society. It's not only the procurement system is a subset of the problem that we're facing as a nation. I want to tackle the systemic corruption in the country, institutional corruption, where, how do you call it, people go there for services, and that is where we see the most of the corruption. Procurement is a major issue that we need corrupt-free people. We need to appoint those who are tested and known to be corrupt-free to put them there, and make sure the system of bringing friends and relatives, as we know, through the back door and approve their orders through the
Thank you very much. Mr. Onipaye Osumtai.
Hello. What I tend to do is, I think procurement is just part of corruption. Corruption goes beyond procurement. And what I will tend to do when I want to fight corruption is, we need to redefine corruption. At least if you redefine corruption, you understand that even as a public servant, if someone misleads you, it's part of corruption. So after that, what we have to do again is, politicians are just builders of corruption. The designers of corruption are the electorates. So corruption started from campaign time. So what I have to do is, I'll make sure the state sponsors election campaign for candidates, not political party. And this, in my assessment, it will cost the state 16,000 Ghana cedis to sponsor all the campaigns of independent or political candidates. Thank you.
Mr. Mari Kofi Gan.
Yes, but there are three things we intend to do. One of them is to amend some of the laws, my specific one being that which states that if the supplier of the service or product is, I can't remember the exact law, but if the supplier of the service or product to the country is also financing the procurement process, then the approval of that doesn't need to go through Parliament. That needs to change. The other thing we want to do is to ensure that in certain aspects of our ministries that we do introduce some form of blockchains technology. And then finally, we do and have already designed a process of ensuring that value for money applies to every decision that is made for spending. And so there is a framework that ensures that for every procurement that is made, there is justification for financial purposes, there's justification for the commercial value of the process, and there's justification for the strategic nature of the process.
Mr. Sambo Furiampofo.
Yes, since we all know that procurement has been the bane to our corruption issues, I'm going to set up a procurement department under the executive, and everything that has to be purchased will have to go through competitive bidding, and all the bids will have to go through three checks under the presidency, and the final determination will rest on the president, me as the president. And before anything is purchased, I will have to scrutinize to make sure that the very particular item went through competitive bidding, and that will be it.
Mr. Kofi Kranti.
Yes, sir. So a couple of things. So we're going to have a very high moral and ethical standard embedded in the MARs. The MARs are the minimal acceptable requirements inside the requirements that, of course, the ministers or the people who take agency heads come in with. And then once we have that, then we're going to have three layers. We're going to have the institutional infrastructure, which is the structure, the fiscal structure. Then we're going to have the systems set up on top of the institutional structures. Then we're going to have a distributor ledger technology running these things, so it can have an algorithm so that every transaction will spit off an algorithm at different locations, and you can't duplicate this algorithm. And because of that, you cannot move anything, because it would date stamp, time stamp everything you do, and nobody will be able to change anything. We're going to be totally paperless in terms of money and transactions.
I want to go to Zoom and attempt to get in Dr. Tom Asise, who's of course not in the jurisdiction, and so is joining us via Zoom. Dr. Tom Asise, same substantive question. How would you design a procurement system that removes opportunities for procurement breaches? Let's take the rebuttals for 30 seconds now. I see Mr. Carl Morgan's hand up. Mr. Carl Morgan?
Yes, what I had wanted to say until I was bailed out was that I'm going to keep an office in the president's office, an officer or a team of officers in charge of procurement, and at a certain threshold, I'm going to give an order for a threshold that could be treated at the procurement office, the general office. Above that threshold must come to the presidency's office, where the team will evaluate it and see who.
Threshold? What is the threshold?
Sorry, the threshold will be decided, maybe $10 million or $20 million or CDs or so. We are still planning in our.
Okay. Anybody else? Mrs. Onipa or something?
Yeah, I think earlier on I mentioned this a wrong figure. It is 16,000 Ghana cedis. What I tend to do with that money is we need to do a regional-based debate like what we are doing, but this is going to base on policies rather than question and answers in 16 regions. So that is what I tend to do, to move election campaign from the platforms to debate centers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you mean that the 16,000 will be allocated for campaigning or for the election debate? What exactly would it be for? 16,000?
No. I said it was wrong figure then. It's 160,000.
160,000.
Yeah, 160,000.
Okay, so I'm interested in finding out what your redefinition of corruption will be, because you mentioned that you have to redefine corruption. Define it for us.
Yeah, what I think is happening is now elections supposed to be free and fair. The electorate must go and vote free before we have fair results. So if the electorate start demanding to influence their vote, then it means they are selling their vote, and we are not going to get a fair result. So when we move campaigns from the platforms to a debate centers, it will reduce the intake of money. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Ampofo, you also mentioned that you have 3 checks at the presidency, and you will be the final authority to approve these procurements that you've talked about. Would that not give you too much powers as a presidency? Would that not lead to abuse of office?
Absolutely not. There will be a chief of staff. There definitely will be 2 people that will be responsible for procurement. To sanction, to go through the competitive bids and make sure that it is really true and truly competitive. And that's all. It's not just going to be done by me. The 2 people will just make sure.
Thank you very much. We'll go to a substantive round now. We're done with rebuttal.
I didn't get a rebuttal.
One rebuttal. Okay.
All right.
So take it.
Again, we're going to have an office set up called the Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction, work in tandem with the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions on a zero-tolerance approach to corruption. So you fall in line, you're out of here. It's as simple as that. So just
We've had zero tolerance for corruption before. To be very specific, it was a slogan that was introduced by former President John Kufuor. The question is, why should we believe that this slogan that you used, that we've had before, will this time yield results? That obviously the question suggests we haven't found.
Well, because Evans, if you take a look at the structure, the way we're coming in with an office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, whose sole responsibility is set up to prosecute. We don't have a toothless vegetarian special prosecutor who the NDC MPP spend millions on, who don't do anything. We're going to have a Director of Public Prosecutions who just prosecutes anything that's criminal. It doesn't go through anywhere. It just their job to do. So it's a totally different consciousness.
Finally, Mr. Abel Morgan, you mentioned that you will be appointing corrupt-free persons. How are you able to tell that someone is corrupt-free?
What I will do is that there are certain institutions in this country that we know they are very, very corruption infested. We know, and I'm going to dissolve certain.
Like which ones?
What?
Like which ones?
If you push me to the wall, I'll say dead and bed registry. for me, is the most corrupt infested institution in the country. I'm going to dissolve the institution, put in new staff. Those who have not had any touch with corrupt practices, I'll get them. And there are so many around. You will be one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carl Abel Morgan. We'll go on to the next round at this point. You have a rebuttal quickly.
No, I just wondered if I could get a pen for this.
Of course.
Yeah, we don't have pen. I don't have pen either.
So, thank you for bringing it up. But let's go to a substantive question.
At this point, and we'll start with you, Onipayede Osumte. And this one is the background to the Ghana Beyond Aid Charter is that our Southeast Asian independence peers have done far better than us, and we need to catch up. What, in your view, are the 3 critical cultural or soft issues that drove their growth but are absent in our context?
Please, your question again. I think
Very
I missed
well.
that.
The background to the Ghana Beyond Aid Charter is that our Southeast Asian independence peers have done far better than us, and we need to catch up, we all agree. But what, in your view, are the 3 critical cultural or soft issues that drove their growth but are absent in our country?
I think I didn't get your question well.
You don't
Come
understand?
again. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about the Ghana Beyond Aid.
Yes.
I'm sure you know about Ghana Beyond Aid.
Yes, sir.
And our Southeast Asian independence countries, like countries our peers, including Malaysia, for instance, they have done far better than us.
Okay.
And we need to catch up. So I'm asking, in your view, what are the 3 cultural issues, our socio-cultural issues, and soft issues, for instance, that drove their growth and made them get to where they are that we do not have in our context?
Okay, thank you. I think now I understand it a little. What I think is the problem now is we as Ghanaians, our parliament, I think it's not a culture, it's the parliament. Because parliament is supposed to be autonomous. And now we have these 2 major groups in parliament, which is the minority, majority. And that is the reason why we are not making any improvement in Ghana here. Because one thing we have to know is majority, minority is a decision. Whenever parliaments come out with a decision, before you get a minority support of it, and then a majority that maybe will impose such decision. But you have the groups already. It makes it difficult for the governance to be able to improve in our lives. So to me, I think I'll get away with that 2 groups, the major groups, majority, minority. To me, it's a yes or no group, and it's not helping us as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary Kofi Gan, same question to you. Should I go over it?
No, I think I get a question.
Okay.
I would say indiscipline. So discipline is a core element in there. And then there's also the issue of selflessness. And I say selflessness, but I do want to add to that. I feel that Ghanaians, for who they are, have been pushed to too much of a point where survival has become more critical than being selfless for this country. So even though I say selflessness, I just want to state on record that there is a cause for that. But I will leave it at those 2. Those are the 2 critical things, soft issues for me.
Mr. Samuel Oframpofo.
Yeah, thank you. The Asians are sincerely very hard-working because they are, number one, well-paid, and they are meritocratic, and there is absolutely free corruption in those systems. Now, people are not hard-working here in Ghana because of salary disparities. There's too much salary disparities in this country, and that has to be resolved. If we don't do that, we aren't going anywhere. If we don't punish corruption as we see it, and don't talk and don't do anything, and chiefs will just bring their palanquins and to support a criminal in the courts, we aren't going anywhere. So we must begin to punish corruption and punish corruption. That's it, and nothing. We will just keep up with the development of this country.
Mr. Kofi Kranting.
In a society where there are no enforced systems, people automatically resort to culture. If we had systems that worked, rather this bastardized system of the NDC and MPP, people will fall in order. The question is, when are we going to get the right leadership to lead this country with decisiveness, and who knows what they're doing? They're functional, they're competent, they care about this country, to lead this country the right way. That's what the real problem is. Our problem is only one thing. It's almost like this notion that we're looking in a haystack for a needle. We're not going to find a needle, okay? The problem Ghana has is leadership. If we had leadership, everything else will fall in place. We don't have the systems. So forget about, the culture will definitely fall in place, because people are just stressed out. They don't know where to turn, because this bastardized government of NDC and MPP have done nothing for the Ghanaian people. We need systems, but we need leadership first.
Thank you very much. Carl Morgan.
Yeah, I want to pick out Malaysia out of the Asian tigers. Malaysia, by the time of independence, we were all apart. They came and took seedlings of palm seedlings from Ghana. Today they are way ahead. They have industries. They build a whole lot of things. For me, the first problem was interruption of our democratic process by the military. It took so long, we elapsed. While they were progressing, we were still locking here and fighting for our survival. And again, when the system is corrupt-free, I've been to Malaysia before and I know what I'm talking about. Corrupt people are punished severely. In China, you are shot. So when you are able to have such of measures in place, then we can continue with our developmental agenda and get to where they are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ebo Morgan. Please bear with me and let's try once again. Dr. Tom Asise joining us via Zoom. Dr. Asise, we'll give you the opportunity once more if you can hear us. You'll mute yourself and let's try again. It appears he can't hear us. We'll go on to the next part.
I was, again, rounds of rebuttals on the substantive question of the Ghana Beyond and how we could, of course, catch up with the Asian tigers. If anybody wants to take it up, fine. If not, I have a quick follow-up question to this. And my follow-up question goes to...
we have a problem there, sir. Of course. Evans, we have echo in the hearing. We having difficult to hear.
I'm going to take my time again, but Mr. Kofi Kranti, you have a rebuttal.
Absolutely, Evans. The problem we have, if we're going to catch up to anybody in this world, it would have to start with leadership, and we need to come to the understanding of that. It's so simple. If we don't have a leadership that's science-based, data-driven, human-centered, there is absolutely no way in this world we're going to be able to catch up and be globally competitive. We are wasting time. The time is now for us to come together, get these clowns out, because the NDC and MPP are not doing anything for us.
Yes, sir. Someone for Yampafo?
Yeah. I think we definitely need to start from somewhere, and that is to start getting the fundamentals of our economy right. If we don't do that, we just beating about the bush. The fundamentals of our economy is wrong. The bases are wrong, and it will be wrong as long as NDC and MPP continues to be in power. And therefore...
Follow-up question. Marie Kofi Ghana, how do you move Ghana beyond aid from a slogan to a catalyst for development? But that is, if you agree, it is essential for our development.
Sorry, can I take the question again, sir?
How do you move Ghana beyond aid from a slogan to a catalyst for development? That is, if you agree that indeed Ghana beyond aid is essential for a country like that.
First of all, I have worked in the aid industry. I don't believe we've had a problem with aid. The problem we've had with aid is that we've never really structured how we intend to use those aid. And so everybody brings aid into the country and decides how they want to use that aid. Rwanda and the likes grew on aid. But moving Ghana from the slogan to the reality is, first of all, I think we do need to restructure, our economy in a lot of ways. I'm not sure we have time for that, but largely restructuring our economy.
Mr. Calebo Morgan, that's follow-up question to you as well.
Okay.
Ghana Beyond Aid, how do you move from a slogan to a catalyst for development?
Well, for me, the whole idea of Ghana Beyond Aid is just a rhetoric. You cannot say one thing and then go back and still borrowing. There's no concrete action by the MPP government whereby we can use the mantra Ghana Beyond Aid as a catalyst for development. For me, it's just a political talk.
Next round of questions, substantive. So you have 1 minute on this, and we are talking about the economy now. Let's start with an area that is very fundamental to our development. Is it true that our tax collection history has been abysmal, but we also know resources will never be enough? What, in your view, will be an optimal tax regime that caters for the country's critical needs? Would you consider a flat tax for both corporate and personal taxes instead of the multiplicity of taxes that we have?
Thank you. I think when we are talking of taxation, we need to understand what tax really means. What tax really means is the government needs to invest first freely before he takes something out of it to cover whatever he lost. But in this our case, I think tax, we take it in a context that we are imposing something on the people and it becomes a burden on us. So to me, what I tend to do is let the government invest first in the people before taking a tax. In this case, I'll prefer flat tax rates for the people rather than maybe giving some of the people a huge tax that their business cannot survive. And if you take Africa here, we have the lowest in terms of labor, but tax is our problem. So this is how I'll do. Thank you.
Could you please repeat the question, sir?
The question is it true that our tax collection history, it is true that our tax collection history has been abysmal, but we also know resources will never be enough. What in your view will be an optimal tax regime that caters for the country's critical needs? Would you consider a flat tax for both corporate and personal taxes instead of multiplicity of taxes that we have?
There can never be an optimal tax system, but there are changes that can be made to make our tax regime a lot more better. There is quite a lot of inefficiencies in the tax collection process. There are things we can do. For one, I would like to see the tax bands for individual rates reduced from 6 to 4. I think it's quite ridiculous. For one, if you're a business person, I would like to see a lot less of re-audits by the tax authorities. And for one, if we were, going to go ahead with tax collection, I do think that we need to focus on trying to expand the base of tax collection rather than narrow it down to those in the formal sector. So there are ways we can do this, not necessarily to have a unified tax system.
Thank you. I strongly have the opinion that we have to adopt the multiplicity sector as form of taxes. The only problem is we are overtaxed, and excessive taxations are counterproductive. Now, there are certain areas of the economy that has not yet been tapped into the tax net, especially the real estate sector of the economy. And I've computed the whole of Accra with minimum payments, and I have over 700, close to 1 billion Ghana cedis just on Accra. And that is not tapped into the tax net. Why? Because those big high rises and buildings that we see around belongs to the politicians. And so therefore, they will not want to go there. They rather prefer to tax everything that affects the poor man.
Flat tax, bottom up, top down taxes still doesn't make a difference, because taxes are only an issue in the absence of value to the people. The problem we have is we don't have an integrated national ID and address system. Not until we can have that and have it functional, you do not even know the people to tax. Don't we get it? NDC, MPP, if we do not get this integrated national ID system in sync, there is no way you're going to then you're going to overtax people. And it becomes a disincentive for the people to do more because they're being taxed. So get the integrated national ID and address system together and have a uniform, equitable tax system, and then give value to the people. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous when we talk about this system of taxation. In Ghana, I want to say categorically that the government knee is on our necks. We can't breathe. So much taxes. We are suffocating under this system by both parties. What we need to rob in foreign direct investors and so on, that the multinational big companies like the Nike and others, it's just simply tax cut. We don't need to increase the taxes. We need to cut the tax down so that to be attractive and draw people from outside the world to come and establish businesses in Ghana, where the people will get jobs and the government will tax the workers. But if the workers are overtaxed, it becomes a problem. The government's neck is on our necks. We need a breather.
I see my representative hands up.
Can I make a rebuttal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I do think that there's quite a number of things that we're not getting right with our taxes. Largely, we're not doing too well with our property taxation. There's also transfer pricing, which is hugely complex that, I have been an accountant and a tax person myself, we lose a lot of money from transfer pricing. I know the government has tried to do a lot with shifting that around. It hasn't succeeded in that. But more critically for me is that Ghanaians don't see what their taxes are being used for. It is absolutely no motivation for people to continue paying taxes.
We're going to move on to the substantive question, which is related. You can come back to that, and if I'll take that.
Because time is not our best ally, so we'll take a number of questions, and then later on we'll make time for rebuttals. We'll go on to the next question on unemployment. And I'll start with you, Mr. Mari Kofi. Some believe that government employment schemes often do not have corresponding value addition to the economy. So what's your assessment of state employment schemes such as JIDA, NAPCO, and others? And what different things would your government do to tackle the unemployment problem in Ghana?
First of all, it is not in the business of government to be doing what private sector should be doing. It is the business of government to be ensuring that private sector is supported in order to drive employment. That is not happening, and that is what should happen. The other thing I want to say quickly is that it is government's duty is to skill up its people and then get them to the private sector to get out there and work. It is private sector that drives profit. It is private sector that will continue increasing employment. And so for me, government's duty is to ensure that if you want to skill up people, let's skill up people and let's send them to private sector to get a job done.
Thank you very much. Samuel Ofriampo, your turn.
Excuse me. I believe it is the responsibility of government to provide jobs for its citizens. It is the IMF that came down to convince Kwasi Botchwe's time of Minister of Finance that it is not the responsibility of government to provide jobs. Therefore, all government businesses must be sold or divested. That began the unemployment problems in this country. Now, why is it that government has contracted $600 million, not cedis, $600 million and applying it for NAPCO, paying unemployed graduates 700 Ghana cedis to not do anything. Why can't we use that $600 million, set up industries all around the countryside and employ these graduates and tax them and let them contribute to our social security benefits during their retirements? Where is the money? NPP has that money. Where is it? Why can't we set up businesses and ask the people to capitalize it, recapitalize it, and let it eventually be...
You've been bailed out, Mr. Furian-Pofo. Kofi Kranting, your turn.
Visionary leadership with a bold agenda. A bold agenda means you invest in industry, you invest in manufacturing. We have 800,000 unemployed graduates as we speak. Now, I always go back to science-based, data-driven, human-centered leadership, consciousness to leadership. People probably ruffling, thinking, why? Well, the reason is, if we had the data points, then we would know it's totally ridiculous to pump all the money we are pumping into free SHS. When at the other end of the tunnel, we have over 800,000 unemployed graduates who are sitting down, twiddling their fingers, looking for something to do. And this government, clueless. That's why we're here today.
Thank you very much. Carl Morgan.
Yeah, I want to start by saying that the creation of NAPCO, CEDA, and others was out of pressure on government to create jobs. And the question is, have they been successful? And the answer is big no, because it was not properly planned as an alternative policy for creating jobs. Youth unemployment and so on, these things are just temporary. I am of the opinion that the government have shortchanged all of us. The monies that they collect and so on that must be put into proper planning for unemployment, it's not being used for. Like Kofi just said, we don't even have a database. So how many unemployed graduate whatsoever, they are all speculative. I'm going to make sure we have a real database published every month for us to know the number of unemployed youth that we have, then we plan
Thank you very much, Ms. Abel Morgan. Onipoede Osumte.
Thank you. Actually, government cannot provide jobs to the citizen. But what government is supposed to do is make sure each and every citizen is skilled and provided with a practical job that you can be able to do and then survive. This is what I will do. Our education sector, we are going to do more of practical works than the theory. Because when you do theory cannot give you anything unless you wait for the government to provide you with a job before you can be able to do it. But if you have your skills, when you come out from school, you will not form unemployment association. You have your skills, so all that you need is a small loan or a support to be able to set your own business up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to move to a very substantive area, education. And I'll start with you again, Samuel Furian-Pofo. The country is experiencing a major shift of public resources towards secondary education, weakening the basic foundations of our public education system. What is your assessment of the current social protection schemes in education, especially the free SHS and teacher training allowance? What will be your vision in this regard if you win an election?
There has been free education ever since independence, except that the military interventions curtailed that system. Until recently, that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo reintroduced the free senior high school education. It used to be up to the university level. So I am not here to say that, I won't stand here and say that free SHS is a bad idea. No. Educated citizens are better informed to make better decisions, and therefore that's fine. But it appears that it was just done in a rush, and that is the reason why we are now facing that shift systems. Now,
Kofi Krante.
Emphasis on STEAM. When you STEAM it, it's healthier. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Why? It's because we need to have a functional education so that our youth will be balanced in what they know. You see, the whole middle sector right now is empty. I don't know if you realize that. So we don't have trade. Trade is on the down. We don't have vocational skills for these youth. So when they come out, and that's why we have this bottleneck of 800,000 unemployed graduates, they don't have anything to do because they don't have the skilled labor. We need to develop practicum, train the students so that they can have something to do, entrepreneurial skills when they come out, so we can fill the gap. Don't pump all the money into free SHS because you bottleneck the system with no value. Now, there's nothing wrong with free SHS, but it's not being planned out properly.
Carla Morgan, what is your assessment of the current social protection schemes in education, especially the free SHS and teacher training allowance, and what will your vision be in this regard?
Thank you so much. I want to be frank and say what I really think is our problem in this country. It's because we had free. As we speak, Mahama is saying next time he's going to give us free medical care. A time will come, Akufo-Addo or NPP aspirant will come and tell us he's going to give us free wives, free husbands, and so on. Enough of the free thing. We need to be realistic. Education, SHS is good, but the implementation, it was more political than a social policy. So, these children have been pampered to believe that they are so special, and when they came to reality, look at what happened, insulting even the president. So it is our mindset, and I want to make sure the tertiary level of education becomes full fee paying, and I will explain further if I have the opportunity. That is what I want to do, but I will continue with a really planned free SHS. It's good, but implementation.
Yes. Hello. What I think is the problem is our education system is not helping us anyway. So when you make it free or provide the infrastructure, you are still adding more to the problem. Because people are there, graduate, and their parents are still feeding them. So I think the practical work in the education sector will help. So that when the person comes out, he might be able to do whatever he can do to feed himself, rather than making it free or provide the infrastructure, and when he comes back, he's going to depend on the parents again. I don't think the free education or allowance will help. Let us restructure the educational system so that at least when you come out, you might be able to do something for yourself. Thank you.
Mari Kofigan.
Thank you. I honestly wish that this whole thing was a free educational overhaul and not just free SHS. Point taking is that this is the first time I've actually heard free meaning something you've paid for. This is taxpayers' money. There's no way we can call this free. But to the substantive point, I do think that if we're going to spend this amount of money for our SHSs, then we should as well also focus on the quality, which for me is the most important and critical thing here. My friends have mentioned quite a lot of that, making sure education is more practical and the rest. I believe that too. But I also believe there are substantive things like ensuring that teachers do have continuous professional development. Otherwise, there's no use loading those kids in school and allowing them to be taught. But I want to also say very quickly that, our early years education, which are the years which people graduate into the senior secondary school, it's in a shamble. And we need to deal with that.
Thank you very much. There is a question that is linked to this. and has played out recently that my colleague, Emefa Powell, will take on substantively.
We'll talk about our exams body, that's the West Africa Examination Council. They've enjoyed monopoly in the pre-tertiary assessment sector for decades. Stakeholders have issues with their system of security of questions, as there are occasional leakages which impugns the credibility of our examinations. Do you think it is time to break WAEC's monopoly to bring in competition? And how can the quality of WAEC's assessments be improved? Kofi Kranting, I start with you.
And here the last part. Do I think it's time for what again?
To break WAEC's monopoly and bring in competition. You know,
well,
WAEC?
it's not so much breaking. Listen, the system is broken. We need to fix it. Okay, we are so big on always wanting something new, as if to say just because we get something new, it's going to work. That's not the problem. We have a leadership problem. We just do not understand how things work. We need to start understanding that there is a process by which things work. There is a science by which things work. If we do not do that and learn the proper way of doing things, we will always just accumulate stuff and stuff and stuff, and our problems will never be fixed. 28 years of the Fourth Republic, and we're still wallowing in the valley of the shadow of death, trying to figure this thing out. It's not that complicated. Let's use the same formula Malaysia and Singapore and Japan and Sweden have used. What is complicated about this? So it's not the listen, the system in WAEC is broken because we have a leadership that's broken. And it's NDC and MPP who has created this problem. It's as simple as that.
Thank you very much. To the audience, our rules still apply. Mr. Caleb Morgan, to you, your question.
For me, it's out of place that a teacher in an institution will teach his pupils the syllabus and so on, and at the end of the year, someone sitting somewhere will come and examine the boys. It's unrealistic. I don't get it. Because elsewhere, the teacher who teaches the child examines the child. For me, that monopoly must be broken completely and given back to the teachers with proper supervision. You teach and you lay your questions, you set your questions for your students. I still don't get it, seriously. At the university, no WAEC, and nobody comes to examine us. It's our lecturers and our professors. Something must be done. Seriously, I don't get it.
Thank you. Onipa Edosumte, do we have to break WAEC's monopoly to bring in competition? And how can the quality of WAEC's assessments be improved?
Thank you. I think I have problem with monopoly in Ghana as a whole. Because monopoly is like bringing up a local champion. He cannot compete in elsewhere. He may be champion locally, but he cannot compete elsewhere. And then I have problem with this examination. How can you keep someone over the years and you want him to use just one day to justify all that he have learned over the year? I think it's impossible. That when we bring up this system, we are rather depriving the experts that we may have in future, because sometimes maybe that very day the person is not in good condition to improve himself, that he have been able to learn all these things over the year, and then you render him useless because he fails on that single day. I think we need to do something about examination. Thank you.
Thank you. Marek Kofigan.
I think this is one of those questions where I think I'll be very unfair to all Ghanaians to answer on all our behalves, because this is a question that involves parents, that involves teachers, that involves the students themselves. What I do think we need to do, however, is to ask ourselves the question as a country, whether or not the exams that WAEC sets and its entire process are tests or exams that ensure that we are positioning our young people in the future. My personal view, it is not. But whether we move away from WAEC is a question that all Ghanaians have to answer, but that is my opinion.
Thank you. Samuel Ofori-Ampofo.
Thank you, Madam. I sincerely think that it is not about the inefficiency or efficiencies of WAEC. I think, we compact our students with too many subjects at a time. And so we should probably revisit, or not revisit, but we should rather reinvent the processes of education and how the examinations are done. I think when you go to the developed world, students are graded based on wherever the level he is or she is. They are graded at specific levels on different subjects. And at the end of the process, his school period.
Thank you very much. I think that will be it.
Yes,
for this round.
substantive questions on WAEC. Let's move to an area, it's health. National Health Insurance Scheme. The National Health Insurance Scheme. The National Health Insurance Scheme, and this is a substantive question that goes to Mr. Caleb Morgan. First, you start with us on this. The National Health Insurance Scheme for many years has faced financial sustainability risks because of low premiums and increasing coverage. Meanwhile, there are varying entry barriers for private health insurance. What specific measures will you adopt to entice the private sector?
I strongly believe that it is time, like I said earlier, that we've had so many freebies, free. It is time that the tertiary level of our health delivery should be in the private sector's hand. We should invite the private sector to participate. The referral hospitals and so on must be in the hands of the private sector. And why the private health insurance companies are doing well rather than the national health insurance is that they insist on quality services and they are regular and they pay their fees. We don't have any problem where your regulator, there's no regulator somewhere waiting to pay the services that you have provided because they have the premiums and they pay directly. That's why they are flourishing. I have one. Everybody wants to have one.
Thank you very much. Onipa Odosumte. The question is on the National Health Insurance Scheme. The scheme for many years has faced financial sustainability risk because of low premiums and also increasing coverage. Meanwhile, there are varying entry barriers for private health insurance. What specific measures will you adopt to entice the private sector?
Thank you. I think this very question that you are asking, I think it got to do with a system as a whole, because we have companies that they are not doing well under the government, but when being sold to private entities, they start doing well. So I think the problem is about the system. When this national health insurance have been sold to any private entity, he can be able to manage it well. So I think we have a problem with the system that we need to fix it, than pushing it on like maybe national health insurance or one department or the other. I think the system in general, we need to do a holistic overhauling about the system. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Michael Figan.
I genuinely think that because health is largely a public good, different governments have been very cautious to bring in private sector participation. I do think, however, that the reality is that there are some private participants within the health insurance sector. What I want to say is that there are several elements within the health NHIS system that can be supported by private sector, not necessarily just the insurance part of it. I would like to see some private sector help more with the management of the audits of submission for payments. I would like to see more private sector involved with elements around how do we call it, the actual delivery of services on a more efficient basis. I would like to see more private sector also involved within the NHIS in the management of the investments that the NHIS needs to look after.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's come to Samuel Ofori-Ampofo.
Yeah, yeah, I will allow private sector participation in our health delivery system. The problem that I have with our present health insurance policy is this. I think everything that is imported into this country attracts 2.5% health insurance taxes. Now, I don't know if anybody has ever quantified how much taxes that comes out from importations and all that, and then work out 2% or 2.5% of that amount that goes to national health insurance policy. Now, that money must be significant enough to take care of our health insurance finances, but we don't know how much comes into the funds at all. And if it comes, I believe that the government, NDC and MPP have always been diverting these monies, and nobody questions it.
Mr. Kofi Kranti?
To elevate the entire health delivery system to a whole different professional status, we need to put about 4 to 8% of GDP into the health sector. One of the reasons you're going to reduce costs is by the functional education, educating people on the way they live their lives so that they could elevate their quality of life. It's as simple as that. We need to set a new standard, put a lot of investment into training and certification and revamping the whole Ghana. Every region has to have a center where we train people, we hold them accountable to certifications, and when you do that and you bring the competency level up, you reduce costs, and that's not what we are doing. And that's why cost is becoming a problem, and we have a failed health system. And it will continue to fail because our leaders currently don't get it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. There is one area that always is pretty packed with lots of issues. It's energy. MFA Power takes that substantively. And
Onipa Osumte will start this round for us. The question is, between 2011 to 2019, Ghana received $5.91 billion of oil revenues, and approximately $2.33 billion has been allocated to support the national budget. However, there have been several verified reports about the poor use of petroleum revenues. What, in your view, is the problem, and how will you fix it?
Okay, thank you. I think this is amount to corruption. And I said earlier that when we want to fight corruption, we need to redefine corruption. Because if you have such amount, and then you cannot, if you go around the country, you cannot justify in even one project or where this money is going. I think it's time we need to come together as one and fight corruption. And before we can be able to fight corruption, the center of the whole thing is in Parliament. So if you have this yes or no group that is majority in Parliament, it makes it difficult for you to fight corruption. Because whenever President is sending something to Parliament, he knows who are going to support and who are going to against whatever is sent to Parliament. So it's better we break the majority group in Parliament so that we can be able to fight corruption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marie Kofigan.
Repeat the question, please.
So I'm asking that there are verified reports about the poor use of our petroleum revenues in spite of the revenues that we've made from that sector. What, in your view, is the problem, and how will you fix it?
Can I have the numbers again, please?
So we had 5.91 billion oil revenues, and then approximately 2.33 billion has been allocated to support the national budget.
Okay. I mean, so the question is, what do I do to make sure this stops happening? Well, the reality is, you know, this is not a new problem. The Auditor General has come out several times on how money is being spent. That is the first point. And reports internationally and locally have shown that the Auditor General has done his job. What we haven't done is how we have followed up on the use of that report. And until we start punishing people who have misused monies, these things will continue. I mean, this is not rocket science, really. I was adding up, the Auditor's General report and the amounts that have been lost in the last 5 years, and it comes up into the billions. So until we punish people who have misused monies, this is just a small part of the problems we're going to be seeing in terms of misuse of public finances.
Mr. Samuel Ofori-Ampofo, poor use of petroleum revenues, what in your view is a problem? How will you fix it?
As long as we're going to be doing what we're doing all the time without punishing corruption in this country, we are not going anywhere. Look, Tema Oil Refinery sits idle. I'm sure if the question is put to us right now, we will all say the refinery has not been functional over the last several years. I have credible info that they refine private crude oil in the refinery, and the person ships the refined product outside of this country. Who owns that? But they claim we cannot refine our own crude oil in this country when we have Tema Oil Refinery sitting, and refining somebody's private crude oil. Now, the whole thing, the bottom line is corruption. The system is broken. The system is broken. NDC, NPP must just be fired. We need competent people in the helm of governance. That's it.
Thank you.
This country will develop 1 million times better.
Mr. Kofi Kranting.
So let's look at the problem. Emifa Evans, we sell all our blocks. We all know that. We sell the blocks to foreign companies. How can we possibly get anything out if we sell it before we think of even refining it? TOR is operating at less than 50% capacity, so we're not able to even meet the domestic demand. So we have to import, and that's where the problems begin. Why is TOR not able to produce at full throttle? Well, we need to ask the NDC and MPP. Nothing we do in this country works, and somehow we accept it like it's okay. That's the problem. The problem is, why is TOR not operating at full throttle? Nobody can answer that. But now we want to buy crude oil from Nigeria and they charge us a ton and a leg. This doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Carl Morgan.
I agree with Mr. Ampofo's assertion that is out of corruption that all these things are happening. With such amount are allocated for the budget to support the budget, and in the budget, agencies and departments come with their budget, and they are approved, and this money is dispensed. Lack of supervision from nobody. The Public Accounts Committee examines the budget or the expenses after they've spent and gone, sometimes when they are gone. So whenever I was listening to a point when they raised the issue of embezzlement, one of the members said, we should forget about the past and move forward. The question was going on, how are we going to safeguard the public past? It's sad. It's corruption and lack of supervision that's causing all that.
Thank you very much. We would take a final round of questions. And this is Mr. Sumte. I see your hand up.
Oh, there is rebuttal.
You want to take a rebuttal for 30 seconds?
Yes, please. I think corruption internally, but externally, those that are giving us this loan and grants. If you are a bank and I write a proposal to you and you ask me what am I going to use that money for before you give me that money, you need to do a follow-up to know that whatever you are giving me gets to the people. So to me, I think those that are giving us this loan must be careful, because when some of us get the chance to be in power and we do a research and we found out that you just gave the money out without doing any proper checks, I don't think your loan will be paid. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Kofi Kranting.
till we can develop the competence to refine, drill, and market with distribution lines, effective distribution lines, we will never solve our problems as far as energy is concerned. And it's as simple as that.
Let's take the final round of substantive question. And this is in the area of affirmative action. This is one of the areas that, of course, my colleague Yemefa Pao feels very strongly about, gender and affirmative action. Do you believe that women have been disadvantaged in critical spheres of life in Ghana? If no, why do you think the perception persists? If yes, what strategies would you put in place to reverse this? And this is Mari Kofi Gan starting off this round.
I'm disappointed that he didn't allow MFA to ask that question. But I'll answer MFA nonetheless. What I do want to say quickly about that is that, yes, I do think women have been left behind. I mean, women make about 51% of this country's population. And by the last researches I read, allowing women to be a lot more integrated into the public space will grant most African countries an extra of up to 5% of their GDP in terms of revenues. What I do want to say quickly is that there are several ways we want to go around this. One of them is setting up funds to ensure that women rise to the highest echelon of management. Those are already in our manifesto, but also to ensure that we bring a lot more women into the public space intentionally.
Okay. Mrs. Samofori-Ampofo?
I have a good feel that women have been well treated to a large extent in the administration of this country. At least, if not at all, we have had 2 women occupying the offices of Attorney General and the rest of them. At least right now, we know that some few years ago, they never had the opportunity to be in parliament. They never had the opportunity to be in good leadership positions. It is improving, but the problem is, how do you just reserve positions for women without competition? If women are going to the parliament, they have to face competition with their men folks. But the problem, I believe, is finances. But I don't think anybody gives the men folks the money for their campaigns.
Well, time is up, and so I'll take Kofi Kranti.
Okay.
In a culture where there are no enforced systems, tradition and culture takes over. All we need to do to enforce the women issue is just to have strong policy. If you have strong policy that it's abided to, it's abided by, there's consequence when you fall out of place, then women will be showcased. And if you look at our policy, we have a policy which is the Women Support and Development, which is a major policy for ours. We are going to make sure that we showcase women. We're going to make sure that we stick to the rules. We're going to create and craft policies to elevate our women, so we can push behind us the culture, the strengths of culture that drives us down. And that's all we need to do. We need to have enforced systems to elevate our women. Thank you.
Very much. That's Carl Morgan.
Yes. Hello. I believe in affirmative action. Our women must be aided to come to the fore and the level that the men have reached. We have even failed in certain areas, especially the UN recommendation for women inclusion in governance. In Africa, we can say it's only Rwanda that has been able to pass even the recommendation. Our political parties, their own arrangements to give 30% of the seats uncontested to the women has never been fulfilled. However, there are some areas that we have over-pampered the women, what I will call reverse discrimination against boys. We should also look at it holistically. We are talking about empowering the woman. What about the boys? They also equally must be empowered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Onipa Adosumtai.
Thank you. I think in order not to complicate myself, let me talk in terms of majority. Majority of women are powerful, naturally powerful and intelligent. So if you give power to them, you double the power in them, and then it turns to something else. So I think it's time we gave the power to the men, but not to talk in terms of, let me say, all the women. Some may be given some power, but in terms of majority, let us reserve everything for the men. Thank you.
So this is time. It's time for us to take our closing remarks. I'm tempted not to give Mr. Onipa the time to give his closing remarks. I will start with you, Samuel Ofori-Ampofo. Your closing remarks, 60 seconds.
Before the closing remarks, I just want to emphasize on the fact that affirmative action is very, very important. Women have been doing well in this country other than how we knew it several years ago. Today, we're even going to have a vice presidential candidate being a woman. And so I don't think the women have been badly treated at all. But we should just keep it up and advise them to come up on their own. Thank you, Mr. Franklin Kujo. Thank you, David. Thank you, the panel members. Thank you, our listeners. I am of the view that Ghana is really in a crisis in all.
Unfortunately, you've been bailed out. I'm so sorry. Kofi Kranting.
MFA, you've been fabulous tonight. Evans, thank you. The incredible institution to house us here, we are so glad and thankful. To the ever-working Imani Group, Franklin and your team, thank you so much. Ghana, we are at a crossroads. This is our moment in destiny. We need to make big things happen. We need to understand one thing, that not unless we elect a leadership structure with a science-based, data-driven, human-centered consciousness to the way we do things, because life moves by principle. This is our moment. Let us scrap the ridiculousness of the NDC and MPP. We have seen what they have done. They are killing us, literally. We cannot allow them to take over the affairs of the state. Let's come together. Let's make this happen for this moment. Thank you and have a good night.
Ms. Abel Morgan.
Yeah, I want to thank the organizers of this fabulous night, and it will go on the records and the first of its kind in the country. Thank you so much for this, putting this together. But I want to appeal to the larger society that there's no better time to remove this status quo than now. People are tired of the duopoly and the gimmicks and so on. We are all aware. They lack nothing, no new ideas to offer. So we want to join hands together with our group, the independent political system, to remove this canker from the midst of us. It's time for third force, and we present the third force. Come with us, and let's kick this status quo out of Ghana. We need a paradigm shift, and it's only the coalition that gathered here can move Ghana forward. Thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you. Let me take this advantage and thank the audience, Imani Ghana, the entire staff, UPS, and Joy News, and the affiliates. Thank you. I think it's time we need to, I have to say it as it is. MPP and NDC have done well. They have done their part. But the problem I have with them is they only form government in the party's name. Now the government that is leading us today is MPP government. And then NDC will come with their own government. I think Ghana deserves Ghana government. And it's only independent candidate that can form such government for Ghanaians. Thank you.
Thank you. Marek?
I want to say a big thank you to Imani and the multimedia group. I want to say a big thank you to every Ghanaian who has been watching here today, and both those here, and to the general media and the UPSA fraternity. I want to say thank you to everybody who has been part of ensuring that we have tonight deepened the voice of democracy in this country. But more crucially, I want to say to the youth out there, you don't have another 27 years to get a job. To the businesses out there, I want to say you don't have another 27 years to endure any vindictiveness. And to those in the rural areas, I want to say you don't have another 27 years to have any form of equality. My name is Marek Kofi Gan, and I stand for three things only. One, that I would always put Ghana first. Two, that I would always put Ghana first. And three, that I expect every single one of us this December to put Ghana first. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly please put your hands together for all our aspirants tonight, independent candidates. Dr. Thomas Sise, who unfortunately we were not able to sustain on Zoom because he was out of the jurisdiction. Mr. Samuel Ofori-Ampofo, thank you very much. Mr. Kofi Kranting, Mr. Carl Ebomorgan, Mr. Onipayede Osumte, Mr. Marek Kofi Gan. Thank you all for making time to join us. Thank you very much, Imani Africa, and of course, in partnership with the multimedia group, Joy News, Joy FM, Lab FM, and across our affiliates who have all carried this tonight. Thank you to the University of Professional Studies for allowing us to use the auditorium for this purpose. You have to watch this space because we'll have a second edition with the minority political parties before the elections. And what this space again, because of course the two main political parties may just appear also. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers across the country and across the globe, we're grateful that you joined us. My name is Evans Mensah.
And I am MF Fapo. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile, smile. Is the money too small? A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid, for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go, let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smiles more?
Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the
It's learning time! To all moms and dads out there, we have brought school to the radio. Parents, the Ministry of Education, GES and GBC, with support from USAID, have started an exciting new radio education program to help your child to continue learning to read at home. It is the Ghana Learning Radio, the reading program. Some of your favorite primary school teachers will take you and your child through exciting, interactive and easy to follow radio lessons that will contain stories, interactive interactive games, riddles, and humorous characters. We have 2 sessions of reading for B1 to B3 for your child from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with repeats on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Think of it as school on the radio. During this outbreak of COVID-19, stay safe and enjoy a whole new way of learning. Tune in to The Fun, 10:30 a.m. on all GBC radio channels nationwide. We are waiting for you. Learn to read, read to learn. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Education, GES, GBC, and supported by USAID.
Repeat on Tuesdays.
Accidents do happen. It could be a motor accident, a sudden heart attack, or even a stroke, or any other health emergency. The first steps you take are very critical. Should you be involved in or witness an accident, call 112 for the fastest ambulance response. With over 300 well-equipped ambulances all over Ghana, you are assured of the fastest response to your emergency calls. Call 112 during critical health emergencies and save your life and that of your family and loved ones. 112, help will come. 112, we are safe. Avoid prank calls as they can lead to loss of life of persons in actual need of help. Be a responsible citizen.
Y8B is available now in Ghana at 1,259 Ghana cedis and get a gift box. Hurry! This offer is available while stocks last.
Almost! Babe, please give me your phone, babe. Please give me your phone.
Whoa. What's going on, babe?
Have you heard of Wheel of Fortune?
No, what's that?
Register on betplanet.com.gh. Select Wheel of Fortune and win a prize.
What? Wait, I'm just gonna win a prize because I'm new?
Yes, but to win a prize, you only deposit 10 Ghana cedi.
Before I win, I have to pay?
Really? So you're comparing 10 Ghana cedi to an iPhone, an iPad, 25,000 Ghana cedi. Eh?
Okay. I'm excited.
Okay, then spin.
Yes!
Babe, we are rich! We are rich! We are rich!
The Champions League season is reaching a new peak. Are you ready for the ride? Europe's finest football clubs are about to experience unrivaled acceleration. And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final with 11 games in 16 days. Upgrade to DSTV Compact Plus to experience every heart-stopping
It began
moment.
as a dream holiday, then
Shop
turned into a
online,
public
get free
health
swipes,
disaster.
and enjoy
When
greater
asked to
security
investigate
with a card that
how
turns
research
banking
became the
on its
source of
head.
one of Australia's largest COVID-19
That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
Y8B is available now in Ghana at 1,259 Ghana cedis and get a gift box. Hurry! This offer is available while stocks last.
One of the top stories here on Al Jazeera. US President Donald Trump has announced a surprise deal to normalize ties between the UAE and Israel. Under the agreement, Israel will suspend plans to annex Palestinian territory, although Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the annexation may still take place in the future. Palestine is recalling its ambassador to the UAE.
Your life, assets, property, and key informations must be protected and protected well. Leave nothing to chance. This is why I recommend to you Zipline Security Services. Zipline Security Services provides satisfying residential and corporate guarding services, executive protection and bodyguarding services, 24/7 external CCTV camera monitoring services, security and safety systems, electronic perimeter fencing, after sales and technical support, bullion escort, security dog services, community garden services, and investigation services. Our guards clocks in on post to monitor performance efficiency. This is why rush to Zipline Security Services for total security. Locate Zipline Security Services
opposite Victory Bible Church behind Red Coat Flats, Medina.
Telephone 0302-904-229 and 020-5044-77426. Zipline Security Services. Professionalism with integrity.
Syndicated Capital introduces the salad range of luxury mattresses and pillows.
Also, when
and
the
for the first
Mozambican
time,
army
the
said that they
salad
killed
pregnancy and
at least
nursing pillows
59
crafted to
of these
provide
fighters,
exceptional
but
relief for your
ultimately
legs, belly,
the
and back
army
during
was pushed
pregnancy,
back
as well as
and
amazing
the
back support
fighters linked
feeding
to
your
ISIS
baby.
took control
No more
of the
sleepless
town.
nights and no
We
more
do know
hustle
that the
with breastfeeding.
Mozambican
Check out the Super Pillow
government
Top
has
Orthopedic
used
mattress
private
made with 12
security
inches of
companies
memory foam
to
cushioning,
try and
providing
assist
unparalleled
in
comfort and
trying to keep
guaranteed
these
to last
fighters
for 20
outside of
years.
this
No
territory.
mattress comes
It
close
hasn't
in comfort
always
and
been
support. Also
effective.
available
In this
are
particular
high-quality
case,
bed
the
sheets,
private
reversible
company
pillows, a large
mercenaries
collection of
even
orthopedic
had
pillows
dropped
and luxurious
ammunition,
towels
but
at
too far
unbelievable
from
prices.
this particular site
Silent Night
to
products
assist
are
the
available at all
Mozambican
Milton shops,
soldiers
game stores,
quick enough.
and
Ultimately,
Silent Night
this
showrooms
area
at
was
Temple,
lost
Asylum
to
Down,
these fighters
Adenta,
linked to
Spintex
ISIL. And of
Road,
course,
and
it
Kumasi
continues to be of
behind
great
Lucia
concern
Palace.
because
Or
it
call
seems as if these
0302
attacks are
24
escalating. They've been going on since
2532
2017, and this year alone, according to the United Nations, there have been at least 28 attacks, and that was just at the beginning of the year. And now it appears as if these fighters are gaining more territory in.
Road to Parliament one-on-one with a man who wants to unseat Xanator Rawlings. The new Patriotic Party's Prince Apia Deborah is gunning for the Korle Klottey seat. That conversation is up next.
Omale! It is always important that you take stock as an individual. And one of the things that are always done is always to ensure that you also have great team members around you. And one of the things that the Member of Parliament for the MPP for this area, Prince Apia Deborah, has been able to do is to get the right caliber of party members, executives and supporters to be with him. A key question is who will be able to sacrifice for his campaign, as he knows that his opponent also has some support on the other side. But if you have a great interaction with his team members, executives of the party in the constituency, as well as some notable residents, you would have great insight into how far his work to ensure that he's able to get into their minds. Wonderfully, they, as team members of the campaign of Prince Apia Deborah, are willing to sacrifice and are very sure that he will succeed as the next Member of Parliament for the constituency. Mr. Apia Deborah, you told me that the community is on your heart. Now you take the people of the community deeply into your heart. You say
exactly.
Yeah. But look, we do know that the people of the constituency, indeed, like communities like Osu, where we currently are, you've brought us here, have some of the biggest concerns as far as living in a very cosmopolitan Accra. But that's a big issue or a big hurdle that you have to
Exactly. Look at the Klottey Lagoon.
Just behind you is the Cloté Lagoon. And lagoon, by definition, is a natural reservoir. It holds water, if you care to know. Accra lies below sea level. And there are a number of lagoons that carries the water from the Krapim Hills into the sea.
I see. Amongst them is the Cloté Lagoon of Osu. There's another one behind the Independence Square that is called Najie.
And the Independence Square is just
yes, it's dead, it's gone. You can't see it like this again. And then you have the Korle Lagoon, which also is, we mention it because it's part of the name of the constituency, but it actually doesn't lie within here. Now, this lagoon, which is now a swampland, used to be a vibrant water body. As a kid, I used to swim in this. You can't even walk in this. There's nothing pleasant about the Cloté Lagoon as it stands now. And last week, the Municipal Assembly, i.e. the Korle Cloté Municipal Assembly, brought in excavators, and they've tried to dredge it up.
Just last week?
Just last week. They've carried tons, over 20,000 tons of garbage from this water. They just haul them away. There's still remnants of it that needs to be carried away from the site. The important thing is we need to bring back the Korle Lagoon again. In other words, this Cloté Lagoon needs to be restored.
I see.
Because of the fact that we are not able to deal with it properly the way we ought to. It's part of the incessant flooding that occurs anytime it rains. Because all the water that carries from Dankwa Circle area comes through the Suriga area, comes this way and empties into the sea. But as you can see, this is stagnant water. It doesn't move. It's full of garbage. So it comes down this way. This place is already saturated. It's filled up. And then there's a back flow of water back into the community. And that's why we have problems in Cloté Korle when it comes to flooding in this part of the city.
But this will mean that we have hundreds of households, thousands of people just within the catchment area of what used to be the Korle.
Yes. Now,
again, and based on your assessment, what do you think really just desilting or dredging this could ultimately solve for?
It's not enough. If we are restoring the Cloté Lagoon, it's not enough to just desilt it or dredge it. We need to firm up the sides, and we need to really empty it out and put these big garbage carriers at vantage points so that every 3 days they are emptied out. The people throw garbage into the lagoon because there's nowhere else for them to dispose of their garbage. And so they come in and they throw it in there, and it's normal fare. We shouldn't allow this. As a government, it is incumbent on us to make sure that the people can dispose of their garbage properly. And this is a source of livelihood for the people of Cloté Korle. Now, when I was growing up, there were no houses here. It was all swampland.
You used to live here? Close by?
Yeah, close by. So we drift to the seashore. You swim in the Korle Lagoon, and then you go and swim in the sea.
That means you would have been a very good swimmer.
Yeah, I'm a good swimmer.
And at the time, I'm thinking that the water was flowing just like you painted.
The water was flowing, crabs that you could catch, and the wildlife was pleasant. There were birds because you used to have these swamps, and this is also, how we call it, a World Heritage Center for migratory birds. But now you don't see any migratory birds around because of the way we've treated it.
Now, if we have to take a proper assessment of what the people of the constituency need, let's say you have to designate that in order preference, 5, what would they be?
5 in order of preference, I'll go first with education.
Education.
Then 2, I'll go with sanitation.